Drama in the boardroom as the Fed cuts rates for the first time in nearly a year. Secretary of State Rubio gives a stern warning to foreigners celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. And President Trump is once again giving TikTok more time. I'm Georgia Howe with Daily Wire Executive Editor John Bickley. It's Wednesday, September 17th, and this is Evening Wire.
For the first time in almost a year, the Federal Reserve cut interest rates by a quarter point. Chairman Jerome Powell says the decision reflects a shift. The weakening job market now outweighs inflation fears, despite tariffs keeping some prices elevated.
My colleagues and I remain squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. While the unemployment rate remains low, it has edged up. Job gains have slowed, and downside risks to employment have risen.
There was some drama inside the boardroom. Trump's newest Fed pick, Stephen Miron, cast the lone dissent, demanding a deeper half-point cut. He was sworn in just minutes before the meeting began. The move sent Wall Street rallying, with the Dow up more than 400 points to a record high. Now investors are betting on whether another cut could come as soon as October.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio isn't mincing words regarding foreigners found celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination. Rubio announced Monday that the State Department has begun revoking and denying visas to anyone caught praising the murder. He called such behavior negative and destructive, adding, quote, "We don't want pro-murder people in America." Rubio says the crackdown fits with broader efforts to block entry to foreigners tied to terrorism, censorship, or hostile regimes.
ABC's Matt Gutman is facing a wall of scrutiny after referring to texts between Kirk's alleged assassin and his trans-identifying boyfriend as, quote, touching. Authorities say 22-year-old Tyler Robinson confessed in a series of messages to his boyfriend. Here's Gutman during his live report Tuesday.
So it was this duality of someone who the attorney said not only jeopardized the life of Charlie Kirk and the crowd, but was doing it in front of children, which is one of the aggravating circumstances of this case. And on the other hand, he was, speaking so lovingly about his partner. So a very interesting and, as Pierre said, riveting press conference.
After a wave of backlash, Gutman posted an apology on X, writing that he was trying to, quote, underscore the jarring contrast between this cold-blooded assassination of Charlie Kirk, a man who dedicated his life to public dialogue, and the personal, disturbing texts. He went on to say he deeply regrets that he did not make that clear and unequivocally condemns this horrific crime.
President Trump was welcomed today to Windsor Castle in royal fashion. The president and first lady were treated to full royal honors in the United Kingdom, riding by carriage to be welcomed by King Charles III, Queen Camilla, Prince William, and Catherine, Princess of Wales. A total of 1,300 servicemen and 120 horses took part in the welcoming ceremony, in which the Star-Spangled Banner was played. Trump is the first U.S. president ever invited to Britain for a second state visit. His first was in 2019 during his first term. The Trumps are dining with the royal family at a banquet at Windsor Castle following a visit to St. George's Chapel to lay a wreath at the tomb of the late Queen Elizabeth II. On Thursday, Trump is expected to meet with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at Chequers, the Prime Minister's country estate, where the two leaders will sign multiple tech and energy deals and hold a press conference. Before departing the White House, Trump had this to say.
Well, my relationship is very good with the UK, and Charles, as you know, who's now king, is my friend.
In what officials have described as an act of terror, a man rammed his car into the FBI's Pittsburgh office early this morning. Daily Wire reporter Zach Jewell reports.
After slamming his car into the gates of the office at around 2:40 a.m., the suspect draped an American flag on the fence, then fled. The FBI named the suspect as Donald Henson. FBI Pittsburgh Assistant Special Agent in Charge Christopher Giordano described Henson as dangerous with a history of mental health issues. Giordano said, quote, "We look at this as an act of terror against the FBI. This was a targeted attack on this building. Thankfully, no one was hurt." Giordano added that Henson had previously made an incoherent complaint to the FBI a few weeks ago, which they looked into but didn't result in any federal action. Giordano said, quote, "We contacted him to let him know there wasn't a federal offense that we were able to charge."
The Muslim mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, told a Christian resident he is, quote, "not welcome here." At a city council meeting last week, the resident questioned a proposal to rename a street to honor a local Muslim journalist who has praised terror groups such as Hezbollah. Dearborn Mayor Abdullah Hammoud accused the resident of Islamophobia and said he planned to throw a parade when the Christian man moved out of the city.
You are an Islamophobe. And although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city, because you are not somebody who believes in coexistence.
Dearborn has one of the highest concentrations of Muslim residents of any city in the U.S.
President Trump has extended the TikTok deadline again. Daily Wire reporter Tim Pierce has the details.
On Tuesday, the president again delayed a congressional ban on the Chinese-owned social media site, pushing the deadline back to December 19th. That's when the Beijing-based company ByteDance must divest from TikTok or risk the platform being permanently banned in the U.S. The new deadline comes amid reports of a deal being struck between the White House and ByteDance that would see the Chinese company's stake in the platform drop to less than 20%. The deal would also block China's access to American users' data. Trump has faced backlash from conservatives for his handling of TikTok, as critics say the 2024 law banning the platform should have gone into effect months ago.
Trump's ICE chief is slamming liberal judges for creating roadblocks to deportations based solely on their personal opinions. Daily Wire immigration reporter Jenny Terr has the exclusive.
In a recent interview with the Daily Wire, acting ICE Director Todd Lyons called efforts to block key immigration policies super frustrating and acknowledged that they impede operations targeting criminal illegals roaming the country. He told us, quote, "Every day it seems like we have some type of adverse decision that's going to affect how we're doing our job. All ICE is doing is enforcing the law the way it's written and the way Congress laid it out." He added that the biggest frustration for ICE is not only the roadblocks impeding how we're doing our law enforcement mission, but that they're just based on someone's opinion that they don't like what ICE is doing.
A California age verification bill backed by big tech is heading to Governor Newsom's desk. Daily Wire senior editor Joel Needler has more.
The bill, which aims to force big tech companies to verify user ages online, passed the state assembly 58-0 over the weekend, as both parties strongly supported the legislation. While some companies have pushed back against similar bills in red states like Texas and Utah, they say the legislation in California is more reasonable. The bill does not require parental consent for children to download apps, nor does it require photo ID uploads. Instead, the bill asks parents to input their child's age when setting up a device. That information would then be relayed to apps, which would be required to prevent underage users from accessing adult platforms such as gambling or pornography sites.
The Israeli military on Wednesday opened another evacuation route for Palestinians to flee Gaza City. The military launched its ground invasion of the decimated city this week to flush out thousands of Hamas terrorists. Hundreds of thousands of Gazan civilians fled the city in recent months to humanitarian zones secured by Israeli defense forces, but hundreds of thousands more remain in the city close to the fighting. Israeli efforts to protect the beleaguered population come as the European Union moves to sanction the Jewish state over its war against Hamas.
Former CDC Director Susan Menarez testified before the Senate today, just weeks after she was ousted from her position by RFK. Here with the details is Daily Wire reporter Amanda Presta-Giacomo.
Menarez told senators that Kennedy put politics before public health and that she was fired for not going along with that. She claims Kennedy required all CDC policy and personnel decisions to be cleared by political staff, including possible changes to the childhood vaccination schedule, which is made by a panel known as ACIP.
He directed me to commit in advance to approving every ACIP recommendation, regardless of the scientific evidence. He also directed me to dismiss career officials responsible for vaccine policy without cause. He said if I was unwilling to do both, I should resign.
GOP Senator Roger Marshall, who was an obstetrician before he joined Congress, clashed with Menarez and said that the CDC lost Americans' trust long before RFK was secretary.
The CDC is the cause of vaccine hesitancy, that you are the problem, that because of COVID and you're forcing these vaccines on people that weren't ever really proven or justified, that the benefits didn't outweigh the risk, and you all sat there with your hands in your pockets and you let that happen.
During testimony earlier this month, Kennedy stood by his decision to oust Menarez and said one of his reasons for doing so was because she told him she wasn't a, quote, trustworthy person.
Those are your drive home updates this evening. To learn more about these stories, go to dailywire.com. And in case you missed it this morning, we covered some major stories, including the latest on the Kirk assassination, Trump filing a massive suit against the New York Times, and Operation Viper ramping up in Memphis. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another full edition of Morning Wire.